Good morning, dear students. We are into the discussion of natural resources, and in the last lecture, we discussed about forest resources, their uses, as well as problems associated with the forests. Today, we'll talk about one of the problem that is associated with the forest, and it is timber extraction. Under this topic, we will discuss about various types of timber extraction from the forests, its effects, and we will also discuss some case studies related to the timber extraction in the past. So, let us start our today's lecture. First of all, what is timber? Timber is a processed wood, or we can say that wood used for the different purposes like building houses and making furniture is called timber. The timber extraction results into some problems which are associated with the forests, such as deforestation, because whenever timber will be extracted, then plants will be cut it down. It will lead to the deforestation. The second problem associated with timber extraction is fragmentation of the forests. Before the timber extraction, a forest has a more or less uniform distribution of trees all over the area of the forest. But when trees will be cutted down, then there will be fragmentation of the forest areas. Hence, in between there will be patches of the land which will be devoid of any vegetation. So, there is fragmentation of the forest as well as the loss of biodiversity, because it will result into loss of plants, animals and birds. We know that forests are the homes of all the plants, animals and other living organisms. So, there would definitely be the loss of biodiversity by the activities related to the extraction of timber. It will also lead to soil erosion, because when the plant population will decrease down, then the soil will get loosen up, and whenever there will be heavy rainfall, it will cause erosion of the top layer of the soil. So, these are the effects of timber extraction in any forest area. So, now we will talk about the types of the timber extraction. The first type of timber extraction is known as clear felling. Clear felling is actually a complete destruction of the native forest. In such process, all the trees of the forest are cut down and they are then replaced by the commercial varieties of the trees. First of all, the non-commercial varieties of the trees growing in the tree forest will be cleared, and they will be replaced by the commercial varieties of the trees. So, that is clear felling. The second type of timber extraction is known as selective logging. In this process, only large individual trees which are economically beneficial species are harvested or cut down. The other trees are left untouched until the next harvesting, and in this process only 3 to 10 tallest trees per hectare are targeted. So, in selective logging, the less loss of vegetation will happen compared to the clear felling. Only selective trees which are commercially viable will be identified and cut it down. The third method of timber extraction is known as mechanized logging. This process can be used in clear felling or selective logging operations, which we have discussed earlier. In this process, heavy machineries are used to pull, lift as well as transport the trees from the forest. So, it involved the use of heavy machineries for pulling, lifting and transporting the cutted trees from the forest. The next type of timber extraction is known as hand logging, and it takes place in the forests that are either seasonally flooded or permanently waterlogged. So, in such conditions where water is locked up in the forest land, the heavy machinery cannot be used. So, the lacking is done by hand with the help of the laborers by the hand logging process. The last type of timber extraction is known as reduced impact logging, and this involves very careful planning and control of the timber harvesting operations so as to minimize the environmental impacts and waste that result from the conventional forms of logging. So, it is high tech or more advanced type of timber extraction, in which first of all proper planning is carried out so as to minimize the environmental losses, and so as to minimize the waste that results from the conventional logging. So, this type of timber extraction is very common in industrialized nations, where environmental damage can be minimized through the selection of site sensitive techniques of harvesting and logging. So, the techniques that will be utilized for harvesting the timber will vary from forest to forest. So, only the techniques that are sensitive to a specific site will be selected and will be used for the logging purposes. So, that was all about the types of timber extraction. Now, we will talk about some case studies which are associated with the timber extraction. One of very famous movement which is known as Chipko movement. I think all of us know it very well, and this movement is actually related with the extraction of timber, and this Chipko movement was initiated in Uttarakhand land. So, I have chosen this as a case study for today's lecture. The Chipko movement was a non-violent agitation and which was started in Uttarakhand in 1973. The protest was aimed at the protection and conservation of trees, and this protest was carried out by the villagers of the forest, where trees were cutted down by the contractors for timber extraction from that forest. So, the people or the villagers of that area, they hugged the trees so as to save them from cutting down by the contractors. So, that is why it is named as Chipko movement. So, in today's lecture we will discuss one by one that under which conditions this Chipko movement started and how it progressed and what was the outcome of this movement. So, I will start with the 1964, and when a society was set up by Chandi Prasad Bhatt in Gopeshwar. The name of this society was the Sholi Gram Swaraj Sangh. It was a non-profit organization which was established by Chandi Prasad Bhatt in Gopeshwar. The aim of this society was to set up small industries using the resources of the forest, so as to benefit the local people living in that area. Their first project was a small workshop making farm tools for the local use, and this society, which was later changed from the Sholi Gram Swaraj Sangh to DGSS, the name was changed to DGSS. This society had to face restrictive forest policies and the contractor system. At that time, forest policies were restrictive to the local villagers, and there was a contractor system that most of the forest contracts were given to the big contractors. So, this society had to face all these problems at that time, and these forest land were actually auctioned to the big contractors, and most of these contractors were from the plains, and these contractors used to bring along with their own laborers. So, whenever any contract was given to these contractors, the laborer which were used in that contract were also brought from the outside area, and this has led to the agitation among the people residing in that area because of uh, too many people moving to that area from outskirt areas, and also the local people were not getting any kind of benefit because most of the jobs were given to the outsiders. So, slowly and slowly the people in that area, they uh, started getting agitated because of this contractor system. Then in 1970, Alaknanda river witnessed a very vast flood due to a river blockade by the major landslide, and the reason of this landslide was tremendous cutting down of the trees by these contractors, and because of that landslide and soil erosion problems started and became very common in that area. So, major landslide resulted into the blockage of the path of river Alaknanda, and because of that uh, flood was witnessed in 1970. Influx of more people from the outside by contractors, and this ecological unbalance in the form of landslides and floods due to deforestation, it brought agitation among the locals. The Sangh society workers protested along with the local villagers against the policies of the forest department in 1972. The forest department then turned down the Sangh's annual request for 10 ash trees for its farm tool workshops. The society requested for 10 ash trees for their farm tools workshops, and because of their agitation, the forest department turned down their request and instead awarded a contract for 300 trees to the Simon Company. This Simon Company was a sporting goods manufacturers in Allahabad, and they used to extract timber from the forests of Uttarakhand to make tennis rackets, and they were a big contractor company. So, a big contract was given to this company for 300 trees. So, on 24th of April 1973, near about 100 villagers and Sangh workers protested against the contractor by beating drums and shouting slogans, and they finally forced the contractors and their laborers to retreat back. Because of that, the contract of the Simon Company was cancelled and it was awarded to DGSS, the Sangh. The Sangh also decided to resort to tree hugging or Chipko as a means of non-violent protest. When this happened, then Sangh realized that their agitation can bring awareness to the local people, as well as they can with the help of the local people protest against all the activities which were leading to a unbalance in the environment in their area. So, they decided to protect the trees by hugging all the trees if any contract is given to the outside contractor. So, by this way they used to show their agitation and uh, as well as protect the trees from cutting down by the contractors. Then Forest Department turned down the Sangh's annual request for 10 ashes trees, which we have discussed before also, as a result of this action. The Forest Department then awarded more ash trees to the same companies, but to a different place. and this place was in Fata forest, that was 80 km away from the Gopeshwar. They cancelled the contract of Simon Company from that village or that area, but that contract was given to them for a place which was 80 kilometers away from Gopeshwar. Here again, due to the local opposition which started on 20th of June 1973, the contractors retreated after the protest. They could not start their work of timber extraction. So, few months later, the government announced an auction scheduled in January 1974, and that auction was for 2500 trees near the Reni village. The locals protested against this by hugging the trees, and over the next few days, number of rallies and meetings continued in the Reni area for protection of the trees from that area. All the local people along with the Sangh, they were opposing for this contract of 2500 trees in the Reni village. Then on 25th of March 1974, the men of the Reni village and Sangh workers, they were invited to a fictional compensation payment site at Chamoli, and they were invited by the state government and the contractors. When all the men and Sangh workers were present for this compensation payment at the proposed site at Chamoli, at the same time the laborers arrived to their homes by the truckload to start the logging operations. So, it was a kind of cheating that was done to the Sangh workers as well as the villagers of Reni village, because they thought that it's most of the men as well as the Sangh workers who were opposing to these contracts. So, they were called far from that site, and when they went for that compensation payment, then the contractors laborers reached to the forest area to cut down those 2500 trees. So, when this happened, a local girl saw them, and she rushed to inform the head of the village Mahila Mangal Dal, who was Gora Devi. And when Gora Devi was informed about the entry of these laborers of the contractors, she along with the 27 village women reached to the site and opposed the loggers. When the loggers started to shout and abuse the women and also started threatening them with their guns, the women hacked the trees to stop them from being felled. These women kept an all-night vigilance guarding their trees from the cutters until few of them relented and left the village. So, by this way, all the women of the Reni village, they opposed this action of the timber extraction by the contractor and his laborers. And next day, when the men from the Chamoli, they returned back, and Sangh members also, when they returned back and when they came to know about this cheated action of the government as well as the contractors, then they also joined this protest along with the women, and soon this news reached to the state capital. Then the state chief minister Hemavati Nandan Bahuguna set up a committee to look into this matter, which eventually reported in favor of the villagers, and thus this became a turning point in the history of environment protection struggles in the region and around the world. This news spreaded approximately all parts of the world, and because of that, the government had to issue a ban on the felling of trees in the Himalayan region for 15 years in 1980. And it was this order was issued by the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, and this ban was issued until the green cover was fully restored to that area. Then one of the prominent Chipko leaders was Sundarlal Bahuguna, who took around 5,000 kilometer foot march between 1981 to 1983 for spreading the Chipko message to a far greater area. So, because of successful action of Chipko movement in the Reni village, this message spread to the rest part of India also, and many such protests were taken up by the people of other part of India for opposing the contractors for extraction of timber on heavy basis from the forests. So, these are some of the participants of Chipko movement. Gaura Devi, as I discussed before in my slides, that she was first to oppose the liberals. Then Chandi Prasad Bhatt, who was the founder of DGSS society. Sundarlal Bahuguna, who took it to the farther areas of India, especially the Trans-Himalaya. Then Dhoom Singh Negi was also one of the important participants of Chipko movement, and Sudesha Devi also joined hands with the villagers to stop the contractors for cutting down the trees. So, that was the case study of Chipko movement, in which the combined efforts of men, women, and the active workers of society, DGSS society, restricted the cutting down of trees on the large scale, which was creating an unbalance to that area. So, that was all about today's lecture about timber extraction, its methods, and the effects of timber extraction on the environment, as well as the case study, which is Chipko movement and also called Chipko Andolan, which was carried out in Uttarakhand. So, that was all about today's lecture. Thank you.